All right, Greg. First, I'd like to say thanks for reaching out to me. It's my pleasure to help you with your golf swing. And the second thing I would say is that I've spent quite a bit of time reviewing your swing videos here, and there's a number of things that we need to work on in your swing for you to play better golf. And obviously, I can't make a video that's an hour long. I'd never be able to get it to you, so we may have to break this up into a couple of different sessions, but I'm going to prioritize the things that I think are most critical to you playing good golf, and I'll try to cover the most important thing here in this video. So taking a look at your setup here on the left from a down the line perspective, everything looks really, really good, and I want to call a couple things to your attention. So the first thing that I see is that you have a really nice forward tilt to your pelvis here. Now, I would call that that's known as an anterior tilt, okay? The pelvis is bending forward and it's kind of tilting down toward the golf ball. Really, really solid right there. You're in a good posture, got a nice spine angle here, and you're set up for success, kind of right from the start here. The problem is you have some movement patterns in your golf swing that compromise these setup positions, and I want to kind of explain those a little bit to you. Okay, so the first thing to notice, let's go back to the pelvis. With the pelvis tilted forward like this, and if your pelvis is truly turning in a circle, it would make sense that your right hip, and if I just put kind of a dot on your right hip bone, somewhere in that ballpark, your right hip, if you turned your pelvis in a circle, would work up and backwards, which means the pelvis would maintain some kind of a tilt down toward the ball. The right side of your pelvis would be high, and the left side of your pelvis would be low. Okay, and you'll notice that the first thing that happens in your golf swing is you lose your pelvic tilt. So your pelvis is leveling out right now. So it's going from a nice forward bend to a very, very level pelvic position. Okay, and this is why you've struggled with the early extension and the sort of funky lower body motion, because you have a lot of different things going on here. The first thing I want to call to your attention is I want you to watch your right foot at the start of your backswing, your heel. Can you see how your heel is lifting off the ground there? So that's very uncommon in a golf swing because the right leg should actually be extending. The right leg should be straightening. The right hip should be pushing up. And that's what allows us to maintain that pelvic inclination in the golf swing. And in your case, the right heel is coming up off the ground. The right knee is moving out towards the ball. And the pelvis is really, really, really leveling out here. It's getting in this ballpark right here as we keep going. You can see at the top, you've got a super level hip turn here. Again, slow motion. Right heel comes up, right knee moves out toward the ball. You have to start kind of standing up out of your posture and breaking your spine angle. It's just kind of a chain reaction of events that occur. And this straightening of the right leg and allowing this right leg to extend is a highly debated subject amongst golf instructors and players alike. But in my opinion, there is no debate, because when you look at the greatest players who've ever played this game, they extend their right leg, and their right hip gets higher than their left. I mean, there's Nicklaus, Snead, Palmer, more modern day, Bubba Watson. I mean, you're seeing hip inclination, tilt in every one of these players, and you're seeing a trail leg extend. And and I can go on and on and on, Dustin Johnson. Now, so in my opinion, there's not much of a debate. You might be able to show me one or two players on tour who keep their back knee flexed, yes. But I can show you 40 major championships won with guys straightening their trail leg. And if you understand kinesiology, or if you understand anatomy, then you would not even argue the point that, well, the back leg has to straighten if my pelvis is going to turn in a circle and maintain the forward bend that you have here at address. Okay? That nice little beautifully tilted pelvis right there. So that right hip has got to work back and up. And to do that, that right leg has to straighten. Okay? So that's the first thing we need to clean up in your golf swing is this takeaway. All right? And I'll just throw a player over there to really quick to show you an example of sort of a good trail leg in the backswing here. So look at the change in flex of the knees. First thing you see is the left knee is moving this way and the right knee is moving this way. That's an indication that the knees are changing flex and the hips are turning. And when you get to the top of the backswing, you can clearly see the trail leg straighten, and you can still see the inclination of his pelvis. Versus you actually gain bend in your right knee in the backswing. And the only way to do that is to level out your hips. Okay? Now the reason why I started there is because that, again, I said that starts a chain reaction of compensations that happen in your golf swing. So because the lower body is so restricted to make up the difference and get the club to the top of your backswing, you simply overflex your right arm. You start bending and retracting your right elbow and folding up your right arm to the point to where you have no width in your golf swing anymore. The club is literally sitting on your shoulder. And that is a reaction. You didn't wake up one day and decide, well, I'm going to go bend my arms and get the club really close to me at the top. You did those things in order to complete a backswing because you had so much lower body restriction. Okay? So what I want to see, minimal changes here. What I want to see you working on is maintaining width in your right arm. Okay? So the amount that this right arm is allowed to bend is only 90 degrees. So at the top of the backswing, we'd have a right arm that is, push the butt of the club away from you. Push it towards the camera. Get the right arm to straighten out. That's going to get the club probably a little bit more up, a little bit more in this position over here. And then from there, I want you to just be an athlete and hit the golf ball. Okay? So in the downstroke or in the downswing, the only thing that I would add or elaborate here is we need to have a little bit of a discussion about your wrist angles. Okay? And when I say wrist angles, I'm primarily talking about the left wrist. As you know, the left wrist can flex, which would be a bowing or an arching type of move, or it can extend, which would be a cupping type of move. Now, the better players are going to put their wrist into flexion because that does a couple of things. Number one, it shallows the club in transition. But number two, it gets the face more square and prepared for impact. Now, golfers who cup their wrist in transition will tend to pull the shaft down very steeply, and from there, they'll have to flip roll through impact. So right here, your wrist is really, really extended. It's really, really cupped at this point. And it should be working, way more towards flexion. If you look at the golfer over here on the right, and an even better example of that would be somebody like Adam Scott. Pretty clear video here. So what I want you to look at in terms of the wrist flexion is look at how much of the logo you can see on the back of his glove right here. Okay? And I want you to watch how that logo becomes more present and more visible to the camera as he comes down. That's because that wrist is arching and bowing, and in your case, you can't see any of the back of your glove right now. Okay? And the shaft is very, very steep. There's a lot of lag in there, and those things are not helping you hit the ball far or solid, for that matter. And I know you've probably been told otherwise. Good golfers want to lag the club, create a lot of angle, but that is just simply not true. the better golfers put their wrist into flexion. They bow their wrist on the downswing. They don't try to hold on to any angles. They let their wrist angles come out naturally in a free release because that's where the speed comes from. Okay? Now, you're pulling this club down and extending your wrist, there's no question, because of the position that you've got the club in at the top because of what this right arm is doing. And there's no question that what you're doing with your right arm is because of this dysfunctional lower body movement. Okay? So that's why I started kind of from the ground up. And, just a quick recap, what you've got to take this beautiful address position that you've got here at setup, and we've got to use it. Okay? No more right heel coming off the ground, right knee going out toward the golf ball at the start of the backswing. Your right knee should be working this way, right leg should be straightening, right hip should be working high up and back, and when you get to the top, you should have some tilt in your pelvis down toward the golf ball, like this golfer over here on the right. Now you can see, Adam Scott's maintained some bend in his right knee. Now I'm not saying that the right knee should ever completely lock out or straighten. I'm saying it should lose flex. It should change flexion to the point to where it allows you to maintain this pelvic tilt and this shoulder tilt. Okay? And in your case, because you gain flexion in your right knee, you lose the pelvis tilt and you flatten out the shoulder turn. And then from there, you just start folding up your right arm and on and on and on. So, this isn't a fix one thing and solve all the problems. This is fix one thing that leads to a chain of things that need to change, but those things typically will change if we fix this first lower body issue. So I hope this video helps you. If you need further help, I'd love to help you, and shoot me an email and we'll keep going.